Hello and welcome to the Tyre Recycling Podcast. We are here with episode 24 of our series. I'm back once again with Ewan Scott, the editor of Tyre and Rubber Recycling. Ewan, how are you? And what have you got planned for today's episode?
Hi, Richard. It's been a while since we did one of these, so it's good to be back. Today's interview is with Gaurav Sekhri from Tinna Rubber in India. Tinna Rubber is one of the larger independent rubber producers in India. And as we will find out, they got involved in rubber recycling because of their involvement with rubberised asphalt. So, in a way, a bit of turning the industry norm on its head, in that they were already involved in asphalt, and then they get into rubber recycling. So, it's going to be interesting hearing what Gaurav Sekhri has to say. It's the Tinna Group is a big operation, and they're actually, aside from the rubber and the asphalt, they're one of India's largest wine producers. So wine production isn't something we normally associate with India, but there you go.
Absolutely. Well, maybe people can sit down and have a tin of wine as a watching this podcast. But no, obviously we have been aware of Tinna's activities before through Tyre Rubber Recycling. So this was a good opportunity, I think, to get down and to talk to them about their latest activities, and also thinking about previous episodes of the Retreadcast. It was a couple of episodes ago where we were talking to Giovanni Cabetta of Ecopanews in Italy, and we had a big focus there on rubberized asphalt. This is a big trend at the moment in the tire recycling sector.
Oh yeah, it's one sector that the market has been sitting on. Governments have been sitting on. The road building industry have been sitting on it for the last 30, 40 years, but now it has become a big thing. We're still seeing people reinventing the wheel all around the world because what road surface material is suitable for use in France apparently might not be suitable across the border in Germany. So they all have to do their own thing and essentially reinvent the wheel. I understand that part of the problem is to do with the aggregates that they use, and the aggregates have different properties, and they impact on the performance of the end product. It's taken a long time to get here, but now we're seeing the asphalt industry and the road building industry coming together with the recycling sector to use recycled rubber in their bitumen. So it'd be interesting to see where this goes.
Absolutely. No, I think this is a good preview of what to expect from this interview with Tinna Rubber. So we'll stop rabbiting on now, and we'll get stuck into that interview now.
Okay, firstly, Gaurav, can you tell our viewers about the background of Tinna Rubber? What sectors of tire recycling is the company involved with?
So Tinna Rubber, we've been in the rubber business for almost 5 decades. Our origins are in trading in rubber chemicals, and then we got into processing of rubber. But tire recycling itself is fairly new for us. We got into this business maybe about 9 years ago. So we're new to tire recycling, but not new to rubber.
Okay, and one of the products that you produce is micronized rubber powder. This is a costly product to create. It involves a lot of process energy, so it will have a higher cost than, say, tire-derived fuel or tire-derived granulate. Is there a market that gives the product a value commensurate with the costs invested in creating it? Is there sufficient demand for micronized rubber powder?
So the short answer is that we are seeing very good demand for micronized rubber powder. I think the industry understands the merits of it, but of course, in the rubber industry, whether it is tires or even other applications, rubber molded goods, I think a lot of the applications are sensitive. So I think the period of trials is invariably 2 to 4 years before a particular business adopts it. But saying that, everyone pretty much we've engaged with has seen merit of adopting it. Let me also just answer this with a bit more background about ourselves. So when we got into tire recycling, we came with a very strong background of using crumb rubber in rubberized asphalt. So that's something we had done historically since late 1990s. And we backward integrated our business to produce crumb rubber ourselves. And when we began producing crumb rubber, we wanted to do something different for the non-road sector, for the rubber goods industry. And that's how we came upon this idea to get into micronized rubber powder. So that's sort of how we got into the micronized rubber powder business. I thought it's just relevant for everyone to know that. So we were making 30 mesh, 40 mesh crumb rubber, which is a very basic crumb rubber powder, low tech, not difficult to make. But our desire to set ourselves apart is what led us into micronized rubber powder.
Okay, so what are the key markets for micronized rubber powder? Is the Indian rubber industry interested in using MRP to increase its rate of recycled content? I mean, the tire sector has long used reclaim to create a price differential between brands. Does MRP offer a price differential to the tire manufacturers? Or is there another reason why they might be interested in the product?
So there are, tire industry itself is very, very vast. You've got various kinds of tires which are made. You've got off-road tires and radial tires and two-wheeler tires for bicycles or for bikes and things like that. So each tire maker, has their own recipe, their own way of compounding. And we have seen that tire companies are fairly secretive. They don't like to disclose too much of what they are doing and how they're using our product. They are very cagey, very guarded about that. It is our belief that some tire companies have completely replaced reclaim with MRP. Some are using both in some sort of ratio. So it also depends a lot on what kind of tires they are making and where they have seen merit of adopting it. So I cannot give you a very definitive answer on this, but I believe both products are in a way complementary. It's become one more alternative, one more option for tire companies, conveyor belting businesses to essentially adopt a new kind of recycled material. And like I said, they all have their own unique way of incorporating it, which we are not privy to that information.
Yeah, it's interesting how the market has changed dynamically in the last last 3 or 4 years. Previously, if you asked somebody at Michelin if they used recycled materials, they would hold their hands up in horror and say, "Oh, absolutely not." But now Michelin, Bridgestone, Continental, even Pirelli are all saying, "Yes, we use recycled materials. We want to use more." So the market is growing, and if you've got the right product, I guess that you're going to be in there as the market grows. Now, India is in the middle of an extensive infrastructure building program. You've got new roads being built and old roads being resurfaced. Globally, a potential market for MRP is in rubber modified bitumen. Tinna, as you have said earlier, has been involved in this rubberised asphalt business for quite some time. Has Tinna seen the market change? Have you seen growth in the market in India?
So there are three parts to your question. One is, I think you were implying if MRP has a use in roads, I think was your question.
Yeah.
So as of now, we have not seen that. I believe it's quite expensive for that application. And whatever the road construction companies wish to achieve by adding rubber, they can achieve with a 40 mesh product. So they don't really need to go finer than 40 mesh. As a result, they use a 40 mesh crumb, but in our definition, we don't call that micronized rubber powder. Anything over 80 is what we classify as micronized rubber powder. So the answer to that part of your question is that no, we have not seen MRP being used in the road construction segment. Some trials were done by a leading road surfacing company. They were successful, but it is far more expensive than a 40 mesh product. So I think what MRP does, because it's just finer, the mixing time is faster into bitumen. But because of the price, the road guys, the company that we work with, they still, their conclusion was that they're okay with a 40 mesh product. Now coming to, I think, your second part of your question, which is, are we seeing higher demand for crumb rubber in asphalting industry, in road industry? The answer to that is yes. There is a strong initiative by Government of India. We are also seeing it from some other countries where they have found this to be a very acceptable, a very preferable application and use for recycled rubber material, which is to put it in roads. You make better roads, you make longer lasting roads. So we are also beginning to see benefit of that in our business.
Okay. Is there, in the view of Tinna, is there more that can be done to increase the use of MRP in the tyre industry, or in fact in any element of the rubber industry?
Absolutely. I mean, in the tyre industry, I believe we've only begun to explore the potential. I mean, the dialogue we have with tyre companies is that they are still being very conservative in the inclusion rates. They are being very conservative in the kind of tires that they're using MRP in. So I believe as they get more comfortable, as they get more data, the tires have been made, they're out there, they're on the road. As they see the performance of those tires, not just in lab, but actually, on the road, I think they will get more comfortable in increasing the dosage and also incorporating it in other kinds of tires. So I believe that this market is destined to grow quite steadily.
Okay. What other markets does Tinna view for its MRP, or indeed its crumb rubber products? Is it looking at other end products? Is there a drive to export to other markets?
Absolutely. We see a lot of headroom in our own business for exports. We have done fairly well with the domestic businesses, rubber businesses, be it conveyor belting or tires or rubber mats, insulations and things like that. But there is a lot of headroom for us and a lot of room for growth for exports. So we are working in that direction. But because of pandemic, lockdown, expos not happening, things like that, it makes the job difficult. Ultimately you need to be with customers. You need to be able to meet their R&D team and talk them through the merits of the product. So it's that has scuttled our growth to some extent, but it will come. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I think we're all waiting for this pandemic to pass so that business can get back to normal. Now, as a leading tyre recycler in India, can you comment on the end-of-life tyre supply situation? We hear reports from the ATMA, the Automotive Tyre Manufacturers Association, that India is not recycling all its own tyre arisings. Yet recyclers in Hyderabad and Mumbai tell us that they have to buy tyres from Europe to get the feedstock they need. Can you shed some light on that?
So it's actually it's very simple to explain why that is happening. You know, it is a reality. We generate a lot of tires. I mean, India is, I think, among the top 3 producers of tires globally. So we also generate a lot of waste tires. Our 2 main issues in our country is, one, that we do not have EPR implemented yet. As a result, the supply base is very fragmented, and organized recyclers like us struggle to collect and have access to tires, especially the kinds that we want. And another reality is that, you know, a lot of these tires, because of lack of regulation, also go into sort of polluting applications. There are a lot of batch type pyrolysis plants. They are set up in the middle of a field. These guys typically buy tires in cash, sell the oil in cash, with very little oversight on them. And with petroleum prices and you know, generally gasoline prices being so high, they have very high margin, you know, with what they do. So they end up taking a lot of tires. So it is true that we have a lot of tires, but, you know, we still need to import because material recyclers like us continue to struggle to have access to them because of lack of EPR and those regulations in India.
Okay. You mentioned EPR. India has been tightening controls on tyre recycling. We've seen an increase in import license fees. We've been told that they've demanded that all imported baled tyres be of cut tyres. From time to time, we hear of shipments being returned to Europe as unaccepted. And we also see that there has been a clampdown on pyrolysis plants that don't meet standard operating practices. Although I suspect standard operating practices in India are not the same as they are in Europe. Do you think that the Indian government will move ahead with extended producer responsibility? How long do you think it will take them to get there?
I believe India is very conscious of the fact that EPR is the way to go. They have to make producers responsible for the waste. Globally, that's done. India will be no different. It's just a matter of time. I can share with you that it is very much on the cards. There's active conversations happening, you know, in the various concerned ministries, as well as our planning body, which is called Niti Aayog. They're in active dialogue on formulating, drafting, you know, a policy. So it will happen for sure. The government is very aware that this is a resource which should be collected and should be used in a beneficial manner. So it will come. In regards to, you know, you said many importers have in the past, there have been issues of importing waste tires and being abandoned at the ports. I think that is, I think largely because a lot of these tires are available for free. So some Indian importers, without having the proper paperwork in place, will typically collect these tires abroad and bring them to India in hope of clearing them one way or the other. And when, you know, when they get stuck, they get stuck. And because they haven't paid anything for it, it's, you know, the most economical decision for them is to abandon it, unfortunately, which again causes a lot of difficulty to genuine importers like us, because many shipping lines, you know, do not wish to carry waste tires anymore because of this problem. So but I think again, you know, like in every business, there's an evolution. This problem will settle on its own. I think shipping lines are becoming more diligent of who they allow to carry the product. Even exporters from Europe are doing better diligence and scrutiny of who they're shipping the product to. So I believe we are towards the end of that problem. I don't see that continuing for much longer. You'll have the odd case once in a while, but it's not going to be a major issue, I believe.
Okay, thank you very much for that insight into Tinna Rubber and what's happening in India. Is there anything that you would like to add to the conversation?
No, I think you guys are doing a great job in highlighting, the fact that this is a great resource. I think tire companies are also more and more, sort of warming up to the idea of using, as much recycled materials as possible. Many of them very proudly now mention, even in their annual reports, that they are using X percentage of recycled materials, etc., which is a good thing. They are taking pride in the fact. You mentioned that many years ago, Michelin and etc. would shy away from even admitting that they had recycled materials. It's gone completely in the opposite direction now, where they're happy to actually promote the fact that they're using it. So this is all good for the industry. I believe this is a fabulous resource which cannot be allowed to be burnt. Material recycling is the way to go. One has to recover materials, put them back in economy. We have only finite resources in the world, and I think your business is doing its best to amplify that message. So yeah, my congratulations to you.
Well, there you have it. There is our interview with Tinna Rubber. Ewan, obviously, I usually ask you what you think of these conversations that you have with people in the tire recycling sector. But personally, the first thing that came out there were Gaurav's comments regarding the EPR schemes and the possibility of those, turning into fruition in India. What did you make of his comments regarding EPR schemes and systems in India?
It was good to hear that the Indian government are moving forward with this, and that industry leaders like Tinna are involved in the discussion. India has some big environmental problems around tires. It is difficult for us in Europe to completely understand just what is going on there, because we ship tires out to India, and largely we have no idea what's happening to them. We've seen recently in a third-party video an example of the process at what was claimed to be one of India's biggest pyrolysis plants, and that sort of thing can't continue. Viewers would need to go and view that for themselves. But it was a rare insight into the realities of an Indian pyrolysis plant, and the Indian government need to clamp down on that if they've to stand any chance of being taken seriously in environmental circles. EPR would go one way towards it. It'd be a big step towards addressing these issues, because it would give the government and the tire industry the framework to manage tire recycling in India. It might not bring an end to the import of tire imports, but it will almost certainly manage the way the tires are recycled, and we could see an improvement to the conditions at the pyrolysis plants, the reclaim plants, and bring them into line with what would be expected in the Western market, if we can put it that way. The society in Europe or even North America would be up in arms if some of these plants were opened up on their doorstep, and it's damaging to the pyrolysis sector, Our friend Martin van Wolfersdorf keeps telling us that we should be telling good news stories because pyrolysis isn't the problem, which is all well and good. But then when you look at a country like India with 600 pyrolysis plants, and one of the better plants they've got is pouring oil out onto the street, manhandling the damp char and whatnot from these pyrolysis chambers is just not good enough. We say that with a Western voice, the Western eyes, without taking into consideration the huge impact that there would be in India of closing these plants down. But they do need to be modified. They need to be brought up to line, brought up to modern standards, and that would see an improvement in the industry. It would see an improvement on returns to the businesses, and it would see an improvement in conditions to the workers and those living around these plants. So EPR in India, when it comes, should have a real positive effect.
Absolutely. No, I think there's a few things from my point of view. I think that I'd like that is good to comment on. Firstly, in terms of our position as a magazine, we have to tell the true story and not just a story that that people want to hear. So I think it's our role as journalists to promote good practice, where we see it, and bad practice. And we have touched obviously upon the conditions sometimes seen in pyrolysis plants in India and also in Asia, but there are bad examples as well in Europe for in this sector. We've seen over for what is a sector that is probably relatively young compared to other industries around the world. There's a lot of developments going on, so it is only natural in developing economies that process is somewhat delayed as well, compared and even further back in some scenarios. But India is such a big market. They're having such a powerful role in global politics and economies. I'm sure once an EPR scheme gets up and running, it'll be big news.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. The thing that I think concerns environmentalists in the West is that Western nations, not just the UK, but France, Italy, Germany, Belgium, we're all complicit in the environmental pollution that we see in countries like India, like Pakistan, Malaysia, and so on, because we're shipping our rubbish to them. We're shipping our waste to them. And we're not too concerned about seeing the end-of-life certificates and disposal certificates coming back. We know it's an issue in the UK. The Environment Agency tell us that they see very few disposal certificates or end-of-life certificates coming back. And we hear stories from abroad, from France, from Italy. It's exactly the same there. They are supposed to get these end-of-life certificates sent back, but they don't get them either. So for as long as that's the case and we keep shipping our waste, whether it's tires or plastic or paper or whatever, to third parties, then we become complicit in their environmental issues. It's not really their environmental issue, it's our environmental issue just shipped abroad. I don't think that's morally acceptable, which will probably raise a few smiles in some circles. But hey, that's the way it is.
No, I agree. I agree with you. But we have a moral responsibility to sort out our own waste and to get to deal with this situation a lot better. I think, because as you said, we are currently handing off a problem to someone else who's willing to take money just to deal with it. All you have to do is look at plastics. I've watched documentaries on Sky News about the UK shipping plastics out to not just Asia, but countries in Eastern Europe where there are huge plastic dumps. Netflix has an episode at the moment about plastics and microplastics being shipped out to Malaysia. So I think in general, I think you're right. We do have a moral obligation to sort this out and to deal with it better. But for today, I think that's enough. We don't want to hear people talk about us bemoan about the world's problems and recycling issues too much. So thank you for that interview today, Ewan. It was really, really interesting. For people who want to find out more about Tinna Rubber have just become a bronze collaborator to the 2022 Recircle Awards. So if you want to go and find out more about them, you can visit the Recircle Awards website and also check out their social media feeds and website as well. But for today, that's everything. Until next time, please stay safe.
Okay, thank you for hosting us, Richard.